My fellow students, how many of you have had to rely on some sort of financial aid to pay for school? And how many of you have had to take out a student loan to pay for your education? Yes, it's true that most students would not be able to afford to go to college if it were not for financial aid because attending college is expensive. According to the American Public University's fee schedule, students who attend full time can pay up to $5,000 per semester. Now that's pricey. As students, the need for financial assistance is constant and often results in a student going into debt. Nevertheless, though, students should not resort to student loans unless it's absolutely necessary. And the reason for this is because there's funding out there, and there's funding out there that's very capable of covering tuition costs of up to 100% without you having to take out a student loan. In fact, there are good options available. And those options include funding through federal Pell Grant programs, funding from your employer, and public and private scholarships. First, I'll begin by telling you about the free money that's available to students through the federal government. Now, the federal Pell Grant is the most commonly recognized grant of all, and I'm sure you students recognize this grant. Anyway, this grant does not have to be paid back and is applied for through FAFSA, or Free Application for Federal Student Aid. The eligibility requirements for this grant are that a student be enrolled in college at least half-time, cannot be in default of student loans, and must demonstrate a financial need. Now, according to FAFSA, the maximum award for the year of 2010 through 11 is $5,550. Now, that's a lot of money. Next is the FSEOG grant, or Federal Supplemental Educational Grant. This grant has the same eligibility requirements as the federal Pell Grant, but it is usually limited to students who demonstrate a financial need. Now, what I recommend is that a student contact their financial aid officer for more details on this grant to see if they qualify. Because according to FAFSA, the maximum award for this grant is $4,000. And guess what? It doesn't have to be paid back. Lastly, I want to advise you about a new grant called the Iraq and Afghanistan Service Grant. Now, this is a special grant tailored to students who have lost a guardian to death in the military. If this is the case for your situation, you should know that there is a grant available specifically for that purpose. And according to FAFSA, the student must meet specific eligibility requirements, and the amount that the student receives for the deceased person varies by individual. Just check with your local financial aid office. But again, whatever money the student receives, it doesn't have to be paid back. Now that we've talked about free federal money, can you see how important it can be for your education if you were able to obtain the maximum amount of free government grants? I mean, obviously, a combination of a Pell Grant and an FSEOG can potentially cover a large portion of your college tuition, if not all of it, depending on your financial need and enrollment status. But you might be asking, well, how can I obtain more money if my federal grants don't cover 100% of my tuition? Well, I'm going to tell you. First, check with your employer. There are a lot of companies that offer tuition reimbursement to help cover the cost of your education. Depending on your employer's program, they may pay a portion of your tuition upfront or refund you after you complete your courses. Now, since your employer is investing into your expertise while on the job, usually this money does not have to be paid back. Another suggestion is that some employers will also allow for you to convert your sick or vacation time for cash. This is a great way to obtain money for your education if there is no tuition reimbursement available. And lastly, some companies also offer scholarships for their employees. I would suggest that you check with your boss or contact your human resources department for details. As you can clearly see, all this free money is beginning to add up. I mean, at this point, you may already have enough money to cover the majority of your tuition for the year. But for those of us who are taking up advanced education, it may be that these methods of free money are still not enough. So if this is the case, I'm going to talk to you about scholarships. First, I want to say that scholarships are the way to go. According to Forbes.com, there are thousands of private scholarships that are very worth pursuing. For example, large corporations such as Walmart offer scholarships, and those scholarships can range anywhere from $1,000 to $20,000 if you choose to be a winner. To me, these types of scholarships are the best because once you obtain them, you don't have to pay them back, and they offer you large amounts of money. Next, if you're a student over 25, there are thousands of age-specific scholarships that you can pursue. For example, certain nonprofit organizations like Royal Neighbors of America offer life enrichment scholarships for the adult student. And many of these scholarships offer anywhere from $100 to $1,500, depending on your enrollment status. Lastly, there are other resources available to you in reference to free aid publicly. All you have to do is check out your local library and begin to research the millions of scholarship opportunities that are available to you as a student. Now, as you have heard about the many of free resources available to you, there should be no doubt in your mind that you will make the decision to utilize them. I have talked to you about free federal grant money. I've talked to you about employer tuition reimbursement and private and public scholarships. You can fund your college education up to 100% if you really want that benefit. Since we're all college students and we all rely on financial aid to pay for our school, why not take advantage of the free money that's available to you? Of course, researching some of these resources will require a little effort on your part. However, the benefits that you will reap will be well worth it because you will not have to pay any of this money back. Nevertheless, if all else fails and you do not wish to put forth the effort, you can always resort to student loans, but unfortunately, they have to be paid back.